Clickbait, huh? Alright. I guess anything else? I get sued all the time. Y'all, stop it.
New drama tonight involving a controversial politician in the South suburbs. Tiffany Henyard was the only Thornton Township leader to show up for a schedule.
We've all seen political drama, but what unfolded with Mayor Tiffany Henyard takes things to an entirely new level. During a live meeting in Dolton, Illinois, she was asked to do something so outrageous and chaotic that it left everyone stunned. Events spiraled out of control, leading to complete mayhem, as she caused such a scene that she had to be forcibly removed and arrested. In fact, the chaos was so intense that the entire live broadcast had to be shut down, resembling a dramatic scene straight out of a TV show, only this time, it was all real. Expertise.
I don't believe that is legally correct. That's just not the way municipalities operate.
The ongoing turmoil surrounding Mayor Tiffany Henyard has reached a boiling point, drawing widespread attention with drama that rivals a political thriller. Her contentious tenure in Dolton has been defined by escalating conflicts with the village trustees, exposing deep dysfunction in local governance. Allegations of corruption, public outrage, and frustration have made Henyard a polarizing figure, while her clashes with the Board of Trustees over budgets, spending, and controversial appointments have devolved into an outright power struggle. Months of simmering hostility have brought progress to a standstill, turning every meeting into a tense standoff and showcasing a leadership dynamic marked by distrust and dysfunction. Mayor Tiffany Henyard's unapologetic style, bordering on outright defiance, has only intensified tensions with the village trustees, who are increasingly vocal in their criticisms. They accuse her of bypassing processes, consolidating power, and dismissing any opposition to her decisions. This persistent dysfunction has not only plunged Dolton's government into chaos, but also turned it into a spectacle, captivating residents who are both deeply concerned and morbidly intrigued by the town's relentless political turmoil. The most recent village board meeting starkly highlighted the fractured relationship, serving as a boiling point in Henyard's contentious leadership saga. Attendees described an atmosphere thick with tension, as though everyone, trustees, residents, and staff, anticipated an eruption of chaos. True to form, Henyard stood her ground, dismissing objections from the trustees and forging ahead with her characteristic defiance, further deepening the divide. Mayor Tiffany Henyard's confidence, which has defined her approach since the start of her tenure, continues to fuel controversy as critics argue that she thrives on conflict, using escalating tensions as a platform to reassert herself as Dolton's sole power broker. Her opponents' frustrations mirror a growing sentiment among residents, who are increasingly weary of the town's political dysfunction and eager for meaningful solutions to pressing challenges. Much of the anger directed at Henyard stems from the perception that she prioritizes her public image over effective governance. Critics cite controversial spending decisions, allegations of financial mismanagement, and accusations of cronyism, all of which have deepened the rift between her administration and the community. Trustees, exasperated by her refusal to follow protocols or collaborate, view her unilateral decisions as reckless and self-serving, further fueling the wave of frustration and widening the gap between Henyard and those she governs. Mayor Tiffany Henyard remains unwavering in her leadership style, dismissing concerns as politically motivated attacks and portraying herself as a victim of unfair scrutiny. To her supporters, she is a bold leader who stands her ground. To her critics, she is the root of Dolton's unraveling stability. For many residents, the most recent clash at the village board meeting felt like the culmination of months of escalating dysfunction, a glaring symbol of a government failing to address its community's needs. The chaos overshadowed any opportunity for progress, as shouting, dismissiveness, and finger-pointing took center stage. Henyard's relentless insistence on maintaining control, coupled with the trustees' increasingly vocal opposition, underscored the fractured state of Dolton's government under her leadership. Rather than resolving the town's persistent challenges, the meeting served as yet another reminder of the deep divisions that continue to stall progress. Mayor Tiffany Henyard's confidence, which has defined her approach since the start of her tenure, continues to fuel controversy as critics argue that she thrives on conflict, using escalating tensions as a platform to reassert herself as Dolton's sole power broker. Her opponents' frustrations mirror a growing sentiment among residents, who are increasingly weary of the town's political dysfunction and eager for meaningful solutions to pressing challenges. Much of the anger directed at Henyard stems from the perception that she prioritizes her public image over effective governance. Critics cite controversial spending decisions, allegations of financial mismanagement, and accusations of cronyism, all of which have deepened the rift between her administration and the community. Trustees, exasperated by her refusal to follow protocols or collaborate, view her unilateral decisions as reckless and self-serving, further fueling the wave of frustration and widening the gap between Henyard and those she governs.
Voices lead to more questions, and sometimes we don't get answers to those questions. And so it's not about clickbait, it's about just making.
As the meeting began, the underlying animosity was palpable, with every participant clearly on edge. Mayor Tiffany Henyard, whose leadership style has been criticized as authoritarian, took the floor with her usual confidence. However, her approach only seemed to fan the flames of tension. The trustees, increasingly frustrated with her alleged unilateral decision-making and refusal to collaborate, pushed back more aggressively than ever. What should have been a routine procedural meeting quickly devolved into an all-out confrontation, marked by bitter exchanges and barely concealed hostility. Henyard continued to deflect criticism, dismissing the board's concerns with sharp, unapologetic remarks, which only served to escalate the situation further. Residents in attendance were left visibly stunned by the chaos, as the atmosphere shifted from simple disagreement to full-blown combativeness. The trustees accused Henyard of bypassing protocols once again, particularly when it came to the meeting quickly escalated as the trustees accused Mayor Henyard of making controversial appointments, mishandling the budget, and exhibiting what some described as reckless behavior unbefitting of her office. Rather than de-escalating the situation, Henyard doubled down on her position, refusing to acknowledge any wrongdoing and asserting her authority with increasing defiance. The scene unfolded like something from a reality show, with one side demanding accountability while the other dug in its heels, unwilling to concede. Frustrated residents began to voice their anger more openly, shouting over both Henyard and the trustees in what devolved into a heated, disorganized mess. Some even called for her resignation, while others watched in disbelief at the chaos unfolding before them. It was clear this was no ordinary disagreement. It was the collapse of effective local governance, marked by personal rivalries, deep distrust, and a growing divide between elected officials and the community they were supposed to serve. Henyard's refusal to collaborate or address the town's pressing issues only reinforced the perception among many residents that her leadership was spiraling out of control. What had initially seemed like a clash of personalities now appeared to expose a much deeper systemic breakdown. The problem with Mayor Henyard's approach to leadership lies in her consistent pattern of alienating allies, consolidating power, and dismissing critics as mere political opponents. For the trustees, this meeting marked a turning point where they chose to confront Henyard directly, in front of the very residents her actions affected most. For the public, it became clear how far the village's leadership had deteriorated, with little hope for an immediate resolution. This escalating saga has left Dolton a divided town, with a board unable to work with its own mayor and a leader who shows no signs of backing down, regardless of how loud the calls for accountability become. Whether the town's governance can be salvaged or will continue dragging Dolton deeper into dysfunction remains uncertain. One thing is clear, though. This explosive chapter will have lasting consequences for Henyard, the trustees, and the residents caught in the middle.
Restraining order blocking her from making those appointments without
The situation reached a spectacular conclusion, leaving locals in shock as Mayor Henyard, a divisive figure who had once positioned herself as a beacon of leadership, was taken away in handcuffs. Her attempts to regain control of the narrative were quickly dashed by the aftermath, which left the town reeling. The scene with the sitting mayor being handcuffed and dragged out of her own meeting felt more like something from a movie than real life. But this was all too real. So, what exactly led to this dramatic arrest? To fully understand, we must take a step back and look at the bigger picture. This moment didn't come out of nowhere. It was the culmination of months, if not years, of mounting tension, chaos, and outright defiance. Let's dive into the backstory, because trust us, it's a doozy. Tiffany Henyard has been causing waves in Dolton for a long time. Ever since she took office, her tenure has been marred by one controversy after another. One of the earliest issues was when she appointed a new village manager, village attorney, and police chief. Henyard made it clear she was going to do things her way, and it didn't sit well with many people. For one, that's right, she didn't even bother to get the trustees' approval before making these major decisions. This goes against the way local government is supposed to function, and the trustees weren't having it. They took the matter to court, and a judge intervened, issuing a restraining order that made it clear Henyard couldn't make those appointments without the board's approval. Of course, Henyard didn't listen. She's taken on the persona of a super mayor, believing that she is above the rules. The people's mayor has a tendency to push boundaries, and the restraining order was just another one of those boundaries she crossed. At one point, there was even talk of holding her in contempt of court for continuing to defy the legal system. Her attempts to consolidate power have earned her a lot of enemies in Dolton, and it's not just the trustees who are fed up. The residents are, too. At every turn, it seems like Henyard is more focused on holding on to power than on working with the people she's supposed to represent. And let's not forget the financial scandals. Long-running speculations surround allegations that Henyard misappropriated public funds, with whispers of lavish spending, questionable taxpayer-funded trips, and a complete lack of transparency. As super mayor, she's used social media to rally her followers, telling them to stand with her and claiming she's fighting against entrenched interests. In one recent post, she wrote, "I need all my black sheep to stand with me. You are not alone. If God is for us, then who can be against us?" It's almost as if Henyard sees herself as the hero in this story, standing up to a corrupt system that's out to get her, and rallying taxpayers to her cause. But what exactly do Dolton residents gain from her lavish trips? The truth is far more complicated than what Henyard portrays. While she has managed to retain a loyal group of followers, it's clear that the tide is turning against her. Residents are frustrated, trustees are exhausted by her power struggles, and even the courts are stepping in to curb her actions. Henyard appears locked in a never-ending conflict, and it's difficult to predict how she will fare moving forward. This saga is now part of a broader investigation into the village's finances, including the alleged theft of funds from Dolton and Dolton Township, with the federal government looking into the matter. The misappropriation of public funds by Henyard goes beyond just local concerns. It's now under investigation at both the state and federal levels. Thousands of dollars have been spent on travel, accommodations, and who knows what else. All funded by taxpayers. It's no surprise that the FBI is involved, because there is clearly something here that doesn't add up. Documents have surfaced showing questionable spending, particularly on taxpayer-funded trips that seem to lack any legitimate purpose. Now, let's turn to the public's reactions, because people have a lot to say about this. One commenter put it bluntly, "I suppose she will be saying it's only clickbait and fake news when she's in court again." And honestly, that pretty much sums it up. Henyard has tried to brush off these accusations as nothing more than attacks from her enemies. But at this point, it's hard to ignore the growing mountain of evidence against her. Another commenter pointed out that Henyard has a criminal past, citing an arrest for breaking into cars in 2016, and suggesting she has a lengthy criminal record. While we can't confirm the accuracy of those claims, it's clear that Henyard's reputation isn't spotless. She's faced trouble before, and it seems she's in the midst of yet another controversy. So, what do you think? Will Tiffany Henyard's career come to an end here? Or will she find a way to get back on track? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for all the latest updates.
The government always does it, is to go and investigate people around her.
Tiffany Henyard took a daring and controversial step by holding her own meeting at the Village Hall, bypassing the trustees' scheduled meeting at the Park District building. It was almost as if she was trying to remind everyone that she was in charge and would do things her way, no matter what others thought. However, her plan didn't go as she had hoped. Far fewer than she had anticipated, better informed when expecting. Henyard was forced to cancel the meeting since she was legally required to have a quorum to proceed, marking an embarrassing setback for someone trying to assert dominance. But Henyard wasn't about to let the story end there. In a move that can only be described as spectacular, she interrupted the meeting by barging in, adding another dramatic chapter to the ongoing political drama that has come to define Dolton's governance. Her sudden entrance sent the room into a flurry of activity, with trustees and attendees alike reacting to her refusal to follow any guidelines. The already tense atmosphere erupted into chaos, leaving many in the room and in the community wondering just how much further this political crisis would go. As the dust settled, the episode only deepened the uncertainty surrounding whether Dolton's political drama would ever be resolved. It underscored Henyard's controversial leadership style, characterized by disruption and defiance. The widening gap between Henyard and the trustees became even more apparent, with the town's residents caught in the middle of this escalating power struggle. The temporary restraining order preventing her from making appointments without board approval added another layer of tension, which reached an almost electric charge when Henyard suddenly entered the room. Her abrupt arrival at the trustees' meeting triggered visible reactions from residents, already frustrated by her antics and controversial leadership. The scene was an unexpected turn in the ongoing saga of political unrest in Dolton. Henyard's sudden appearance at what had otherwise been a productive meeting was met with visible disdain. Some attendees, unable to mask their annoyance, turned their backs on her, an unspoken yet powerful gesture of disapproval that said more than words ever could. Unfazed and unapologetically theatrical, Henyard walked up to the microphone and declared, "I am the mayor of the village of Dolton," as if to reaffirm her authority in a room clearly not receptive to her presence. But before she could say another word, the crowd erupted into a chorus of shouts, drowning out her proclamation with an overwhelming wave of anger, frustration, and sheer exhaustion. It was a visceral reaction from residents who had grown weary of being disregarded and overburdened by the fallout of Henyard's contentious tenure, a community clearly fed up with the ongoing political chaos. Henyard's attempt to seize control of the meeting only intensified the already growing tension, as participants openly questioned her presence and motivations. At the center of the chaos was Henyard, a divisive figure whose actions seemed to deepen the rift between her and the very people she claimed to serve. What should have been a routine trustees meeting quickly devolved into a disorderly spectacle. The room, already charged with tension, became even more emotionally fraught as Henyard's dramatic entrance and the hostile reception from the crowd highlighted the erosion of trust under her leadership. It left many wondering if reconciliation or resolution was even possible as Dolton continued to struggle with its widening divisions. Adding to the turmoil, a judge had issued a temporary restraining order, blocking Henyard from making appointments without board approval. Witnesses described the scene as complete chaos, with Henyard trying to assert control over the increasingly volatile meeting, her efforts drowned out by shouting, discontent, and overwhelming public disapproval. Henyard attempted to speak over the uproar, demanding respect and declaring that the meeting was illegal. She insisted that her goal was to make critical appointments, including selecting a new police chief. However, her words were quickly drowned out by the deafening chorus of disapproval from an audience already fed up with her actions. The tension in the room was palpable, as Henyard tried to maintain composure, but the noise, frustration, and open hostility proved overwhelming. Within just 7 minutes, she was forced out by the very people she claimed to represent, her overbearing leadership style driving the chaos. As Henyard, clearly incensed by the crowd's rejection, rushed out of the building, the situation completely spiraled out of control. Pandemonium erupted, with rumors circulating that police, who had been strategically stationed nearby, swiftly intervened to restore order. The altercation that followed, allegedly involving Henyard getting physical with one of the officials present, marked the dramatic climax of a meeting that had begun with high stakes, but ended in absolute turmoil.